to be able to be here today to talk about the events and the killing on November 26th and 27th, to talk about issues of peace and democracy both in Pakistan and across the world. And I think it's so important for the Pakistani American community to be gathered and organizing to promote peace and human rights, as you said, for everyone. I'm Greg Casar. I'm proud to represent the heart of Texas, stretching from San Antonio to Austin, Texas. And while I really feel came into office focusing on issues of domestic policy, it's so clear that the way that the United States treats our partners and neighbors across the world impacts our everyday lives here in the United States. And I came in with some level of expertise on issues in Latin America, actually where my family is from. And the United States has a history, an unfortunate history and a short-sighted history of oftentimes thinking in its short-sighted military interests, thinking of military alliances first and democracy in places like Latin America second. And what we saw happen in Latin America, and what connected me so much to the issues happening right now in Pakistan, is how the United States, sometimes during the Cold War, because it put its thinking about US and Russia first, supported dictatorships, supported authoritarianism, and in fact supported the toppling of democracy in places in Latin America that took generations to recover. It did not serve the United States or people in America's own interest relative to the Cold War. It did not serve the interests of everyday people in Latin America, and in fact, destabilizing those democracies hurt our own democracy, hurt our own ability to work across the world for a global prosperity, hurt our own ability to tackle the shared challenge of the climate crisis. It ended up not helping anyone. And similarly, as I've asked questions about what has happened here in Pakistan in recent years, I can see how the status quo of militaries supporting militaries first and not asking about democracy ever ends up actually hurting our own American people. I leave to the people of Pakistan the question of who to elect, how to run your own politics, whether your leaders agree with me or not. I know that you had Congressman Pfluger here. We're both from Texas. We have very different ideas, but at the end of the day, the question isn't whether somebody in Pakistan agrees with Mr. Pfluger's ideas or agrees with mine. The question is, can the people in Pakistan choose their own path, choose their own future? And can they choose that future and be able to protest and demonstrate and vote for whomever they like without fear of repression, and even more importantly, in my seat as a United States member of Congress, without fear of repression that is supported in part by our own dollars. And so my first action as it related to the questions of U.S. and Pakistan relations was in 2023, when I led on a letter with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar asking that we do a review of the legality of United States military assistance in Pakistan, because we have a law. I don't believe this law should be applied anymore to our best friends versus our friends versus our allies versus anyone else. There is just simply a law that says that U.S. military assistance does come with a condition. And that condition is support of human rights and democracy, because it is U.S. taxpayer dollars that should be going to supporting peace and security, not to hurting our own values and oppressing anyone of any political party, whether I agree with that political party or not. We then followed up in 2024 with another directive and question to Secretary Blinken. I did that work with Congresswoman Susan Wild, who is just an excellent member of Congress, expressing our concern about all the reports of rigging in the elections. Again, we want to make sure that our role on the international stage is to make sure that we aren't saying, well, if somebody that the military is aligned with and an election is rigged, we're not going to say anything. If there's somebody that we're not aligned with and there's rigging, we are going to say something. No. If the United States wants to have credibility around the world, then we need to call a fair election, whether we agree with the results or not, and an unfair election, an unfair one, whether we like the results or not. Of a country with so many people, with such a history, with such ties back to the United States, it's so important for us to be consistent. And so I and other members of Congress were willing to hold leaders of our own party to that standard of being consistent with saying we want free and fair elections, and we want all of our partners and allies to be held to that basic standard. And then here in October of 2024, with Congressman Rick McGovern and Congresswoman Summer Lee, alongside 62 other members of Congress, we asked the Biden administration to center human rights in our U.S. policy towards Pakistan, asking for the release of political prisoners, including Imran Khan. Again, not because of any one individual person. It could be anyone that was running for office. It could be in any country that we're partners and allies with. This isn't about picking on anyone, picking on any country. It's about just basic fairness. And so, in my view, there's a growing number of members of Congress that are aware of what is going on in Pakistan. I appreciate that there is increasing bipartisanship on this issue that doesn't have to do with us having an outcome that we want other than peace and democracy and self-determination, because if there's peace and democracy and self-determination in the developing world, then that is good for people who badly need it in that country, but also good for our long-term interests. We can't be thinking that people being under the United States thumb is actually good for the United States. It's better for people to be free, and that is ultimately what's better for our own constituents as well. So thank you all so much for having this.